Hello everyone, myself Dibakar Roy and I welcome you all in our Study Insight platform. So as we are continuing our crash course on modern Indian history, today we will have part 3 of the series where I am going to discuss the revolt of 1857, or you can also say the first war of independence. Okay, so let's start our today's session with a positive note, that is, wake up determined and go to bed satisfied, right? So let's start our day with a positive determination, and then with great satisfaction we should end our day. Like, so here comes the topic: Revolt of 1857 or First War of Independence. Now, this thing, Revolt of 1857, is also known as Sepoy Mutiny. Why? Because it was the first revolt against the British rule in India after almost 100 years of their occupation over the Indian subcontinent. Because see, Britishers they started their rule in India after the Battle of Plassey in the year 1757, right? And in the year 1857, that is after exactly 100 years, what happened? It was the first war of independence. It was the first war against the British rule, which was fought by the Indian soldiers who were working in the British army. That is why it is also known as Sepoy Mutiny. Okay, so here we should remember this thing, that the first revolt, it was the first revolt against the British after 100 years of their occupation over India, right? Then this revolt was basically a war started by the Indian sepoys working in the British army. That means the British army was mostly consisted of the sepoys who were Indians, right? So they started this revolt because of various reasons which we will be discussing in the coming slides. Okay, so although this revolt was a failure, we know that the revolt of 1857, since this was the first war for independence against the Britishers, so this was obviously a failure, but still it has a lot of importance, and that is why we are still studying this thing today, right? Because this has created a base for the future wars for independence from the British rule in India, right? मतलब ये जो रिवोल्ट ऑफ 1857 था, ये एक फेलियर था, लेकिन फिर भी ये इम्पोर्टेंट है। क्यों? क्योंकि उसने क्या किया था, इंडियंस के बीच एक मतलब नेशनलिज्म का जो सेंस है वो जगा के गया था। ओके, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट क्या हुआ था, जो बाद में जितने भी मूवमेंट्स हुए इंडिया में अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश रूल, उसमें एक मतलब इंस्पिरेशन की तरफ से ये काम किया था, राइट? सो व्हाट हैपेंड नेक्स्ट, this revolt was also given different names by different scholars. Okay, like Karl Marx, he termed this revolt of 1857 as the first war of independence, first Indian war of independence. Okay, then V.D. Savarkar or Binayak Damodar Savarkar, he termed the revolt of 1857 as the Indian war of independence. So sometimes question may comes like, who termed revolt of 1857 as the first Indian war of independence, and the answer will be Karl Marx. Okay, so again another question may come from this topic, that who was the Governor General of India during the revolt of 1857? So the answer will be Lord Canning. Okay. Now again, one thing we must keep it in mind from here, that Lord Canning, he was the last Governor General of India and the first Viceroy of India. Why? Because during the revolt of 1557, he was the Governor General of India, right? So when this revolt was ended, what happened? The East India Company's rule in India also ended. Okay, and the rule of British Crown was started in India. So with the starting of British Crown's rule, what happened? The post of Governor General was replaced by the post of Viceroy. And since during that time Lord Canning was the Governor General, so he became the first Viceroy of India. Okay. So I hope that these points are now clear to you. Now moving to our next topic, that is causes of this revolt of 1857. So here you will get mainly 5 causes. Okay. So let's take a look into it. First one is the social causes. Okay. So what happened when Britishers started their rule in India? They started interfering in the Indian cultures, Indian societies. Then they started bringing various changes in the Indian rituals, Indian customs, then Indian society. Like they stopped the Satidaha Pratha, child marriage, and they also introduced widow remarriage, which were seen as a threat to the society during that time. So this became a cause of revolt of 1857. Okay. Next one is the political causes. So we know that Britishers introduced various policies, various schemes like doctrine of lapse, doctrine of subsidiary alliance, doctrine of paramountcy, to capture the territories of Indian rulers. So as these policies were very much discriminatory, so what happened? This again became a cause of revolt of 1857, right? Next one is the economic cause. Now we all know that Britishers, they introduced goods, their handmade goods, their machine made goods in a very cheap rate. Okay, and we Indians were attracted to these goods because these were very cheap in price. Okay, so what happened, the Indian local markets, they were destroyed. Okay, and as a result of which, what happened, this again became a cause of revolt of 1857. Then the next one is the military cause. Now under this section, what happened, because since it was called Sepoy Mutiny, because the Indian soldiers, they started this revolt. Because in the military section, what happened, only the soldiers who were Europeans, who were Britishers, they were given high salaries, they were given high preferences. Okay, but the Indian soldiers in the British army, they were given very much less salaries and less preferences. So this also became a cause for this revolt. Okay, and the last but not the least, you can say the immediate cause from where this revolt was started was the introduction of Enfield rifle and cartridge. Okay, so Britishers, they introduced a kind of rifle which is called Enfield rifle, and the cartridge of which was greased with the fat of cow and pig. Okay, so now what happened, to use this gun, to use this rifle, one needs to use his or her mouth to remove the upper layer of the cartridge. Okay, now this, you know that the cow and pig, these were very much avoidable to the Hindus and Muslims. So what happened, most of the soldiers in the British army, they refused to use their mouth, they refused to use this cartridge, they refused to use this Enfield rifle. So from there, what happened, this revolt was started. Okay, so here you will get some facts regarding Sepoy Mutiny. What happened? In February 1857, the Sepoys of the 19th Native Infantry, they refused to use the rifles. So question may come like, from where it was started? It was started from the 19th Native Infantry. Okay, and it was in Barakpur, Bengal. So soldiers of this infantry, they refused to use these rifles because, as you know, that the cartridge of these rifles were greased with the fat of cow and pig, right? Then, in March 1857, what happened? This native infantry was disbanded. Why? Because Mangal Pandey, one of the soldiers, he injured two British soldiers. Okay, because he was forced by those soldiers to use this rifle and he was refusing it. So what happened? He shot those two soldiers, and because of which he was hanged to death in April 1857. And from there, this revolt was spreaded. Okay. So here you will find different places of this revolt and their leaders. Okay, like in which place this revolt took place and who was the leader of that particular place. Like in Assam, this revolt was led by Kandarpasya Singh and Maniram Dewan. You all know that. Then from Lucknow, it was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal. Then from Delhi, it was led by Bahadur Shah Zafar, or you can say Bahadur Shah II. Then from Barakpur, Bengal, it was obviously Mangal Pandey. Then from Bihar, Kunwar Singh, he was leading this movement. Then from Jhansi, it was obviously Rani Lakshmibai. And then from Kanpur, it was Tatia Top. Okay, so these are the leaders of those particular places where this revolt of 1857 was spreaded. Okay, so from here questions may come. Okay, then yeah, here you can find the pictures of those leaders who were fighting against the British in this revolt of 1857. Okay. So now, what are the results of this particular revolt? Okay, so we know that this Sepoy Mutiny was a failure, but still it has a great importance. Why? Because from the results of this revolt, we can easily analyze why is it so important. So with this revolt of 1857, what happened? The company's role, East India Company's role in India came to an end. Okay, so in 1857, the revolt was started, it was spreaded, and in 1858, so in 1857, in 1857 this revolt was started, and in 1858 an act, that is Queen's Proclamation Act, was passed, through which what happened, the British government or British Crown started direct control or direct rule over India. Okay, and with this what happened, the East India Company's rule over India came to an end. Okay, then administrative changes. I have already discussed earlier that with this revolt of 1857, what happened, the post of Governor General was replaced by the post of Viceroy. Okay, so during that time, Lord Canning was the Governor General of India, and after this revolt, since he was in that post, so he became the first Viceroy of India. Okay, and also it was a inspiration for the future movements for independence. Okay, although this movement failed, but it was an inspiration for the Indians to carry out their struggle for independence for next 90 years. That is, in 1947, India gained its independence. So here you can notice one thing. 1757, British started its rule in India. 1857, after 100 years, we revolted, and it was our first revolt for independence. Okay, then after 90 years, in 1947, what happened? India finally gained independence, right? So all total 190 years of British rule in India, right? So now, what are the reasons for which this revolt of 1857 failed? So number one is limited uprising. Yes, this revolt was made, very much concentrated, very much limited, only in the northern part of India. Okay, and also various princely states were there in India who didn't participate in this revolt, because of which it became one of the reasons for the failure of this particular revolt. Then second one is limited resources. Yes, obviously we Indians didn't have much resource to carry out this revolt, and we also know the role of Maniram Dewan also. He went to Calcutta to collect the arms and weapons, to bring some arms and weapons, but he was caught and hanged. Then there was no effective leadership, there was not a charismatic leader who can carry out this struggle. Then there was no participation of the middle classes. Okay, all the people from various sections, they participated in this revolt, but the middle classes, they didn't participate. Okay, so all these reasons are responsible for the failure of this particular revolt, right? So now let's revise the whole thing through some questions and answers. So first one is, who was leading the revolt of 1857 from Kanpur? So obviously the answer will be Tatya Top. Next one is, who was the Governor General of India during the revolt of 1857? And obviously the answer will be Lord Canning, right? Next is, where did the Sepoy mutiny broke out? And obviously the answer will be Barakpur, Bengal. The next question is, when was Mangal Pandey hanged? The answer will be April 1857. Okay, and it was from this event the revolt of 1857 was spreaded. Then, when was the Queen's Proclamation Act passed? The answer will be 1858. So 1857 revolt, and it came to an end. And with the end of this revolt, what happened? Queen's Proclamation Act was passed in 1858, and from this act, British Crown or British government started direct control or direct rule over India, and East India Company's rule came to an end. Okay. So in the next video, in the next class, you will get a new topic, that is role of Assam in the revolt of 1857. So the next video will be connected to this particular topic. Okay, where I am going to discuss what was the role of Assam, what was the role of Maniram Dewan in this revolt of 1857. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope you all have liked this session, and stay connected with us, because in the coming videos I'll be coming with more interesting topics, and which will be very much beneficial for your upcoming any government examinations, right? So thank you. Have a good day.